everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the world's #1 rated podcast, the Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast. And I've got our CEO, Ian de Jong, not to be confused with Ian Dijon, which I prefer because Dijon is a great condiment. But it's Ian de Jong coming live from what part of South Africa?
Hermanus, South Africa. Hermanus, South Africa. It's about an hour and a half outside of Cape Town. Great
Sweet.
wine,
So,
Craig.
Stellenbosch, isn't that near Stellenbosch?
It is, but it's more to the coast, more to the coast.
How's your Chenin Blanc?
Very good. South Africa is quite famous for the Chenin Blancs and also the Pinot Noirs and Chardonnay, I would say, outside of Burgundy. We do a bang-up job on those wines.
Do. Yeah, you do. And speaking of Africa, Ian is hard at work for a bulletproof safari. I know we're not supposed to talk about that, but there is a bulletproof safari in our future, correct?
That is correct, Craig. That is correct. We're going to do something special with our mastermind crew, so definitely something to look out for them next year, and also for those who are not part of it yet, something to look out for if you're thinking of joining.
Well, I just have a little grievance to air, and kind of like you had a podcast solo with Peter. It did really well. It was on marketing, and I, being an emotional person, I felt a little left out because you're my dude. I found you. I'm the one who curated this relationship, and you go around in your sneaky South African way and drop that pod. You could have at least invited me, and I could have said, you could have put it at a time where I'm busy because you have access to my calendar, and be like, oh, we'll just do it without you. But you didn't do that. So what do you have to say for yourself? Well, I don't know. I just feel like you're just apologizing is all I'm really saying.
Craig, I'm very sorry. I will be sure to include you next time. I think that
know what? Thank you, but you're not forgiven. Okay, so let's get going. What are we talking about today?
So today is our podcast, Craig, and I'm super excited about that because just as I did something down the avenue of marketing and systems and those things with Pete, knowing I was going to be on with him, today we're going to do something that's right up your alley. And something, I've heard the term dentist whisperer be thrown around here and there.
Yeah, I've been known to be called that, yes.
But before we even get into the episode, there's two things I want to talk to you about. I know you bought a Cybertruck recently. I did see that. Now, in South Africa, I don't think I've ever seen one here yet. But when I had visited the States, I did, and they are awesome. So I need to understand, is it Spodak approved? What's your experience?
So let me, as someone once said to me, let me know the good, bad, and ugly of the Cybertruck. So I think we can skip the ugly because we all know that. What's that? It's quite ugly. So I have a farm as well, right? So it's a whole different level of I don't know how to say the nice word. There's a word that comes to mind. It's the acronyms are DB, but I won't say it. But that's what it feels like owning a Cybertruck, especially when you have a rural community that I go to on a weekly basis in Okeechobee in Florida, which is a large cattle producing community. They just look at you weird. But
with your spaceship entering into the area.
Yeah, it's just so ugly. But I mean, listen, when you have a commute like I do, an hour and a half to the ranch and back, and I no longer am bothered by the idea of driving because I have a robotic driver. So my creative energy's gone up. The times that I'm in the car, when you're driving, you're physically, you're emotionally, you're neurologically attached to the road. And now I get the beauty of just being driven. And in the past, I've thought to myself, it would be cool to have a driver, but I don't want another human being that I have to talk to that may have body odor or whatever. So I have the best of all worlds. I drive in the front seat and I don't touch the wheel. So I feel like there's two types of people in the world right now. Those who have seen full self-drive via Tesla and those who haven't. And when I talk to friends like, yeah, my Cadillac, it steers for me. My Rivian has, auto steering. I'm like, no, dude. That's like saying like you have Ask Jeeves as your browser and I'm using like Manus AI. Yes, I know you can find the best pizza when you put in on Lycos or Ask Jeeves, but I can actually have an agentic software that finds the best pizza in every city. So anyway, enough about that. It's very cool. Use code Bulletproof on the Tesla website and you'll get nothing off.
Thank you to Elon Musk one of our biggest sponsors. What a great guy. He's been a Bulletproof supporter for
my second favorite South African, actually.
The second thing I wanted to ask you about, Craig, is we had a special weekend, the Bulletproof team, this past weekend, where we went to Live Oak Bank and joined Chandler and the peeps over there to take our masters, which is the elevated group of our mastermind, to a retreat. And I wanted to check in with you. What was that experience? What did you see again with the group? And just give us some feedback there.
So the Masters is a very special part of our Bulletproof Mastermind. Those are people who have gone through multiple years, some 4 or 5 years, some just a minimum of 3 years, but they're invited because each year that they complete, they're a joy to work with. They're taking the advice, they're learning, they're growing, and it's exciting to be attached to them. So it was, in some ways, it's like just being with a bunch of friends, and they are dear friends. But what took me, first of all, Live Oak Bank is just incredible. The campus, I mean, you would think like we're going to a bank headquarters. It's going to be some vanilla floor of some high-rise building, but yet it's really like a college campus. It's beautifully designed and really embraces the natural portions of that area of North Carolina, and Chandler's awesome. And we just had a great time. And the thing that stuck out to me most is that most of our masters, being in the Bulletproof Mastermind for so long, are now in the entrepreneurial journey of their practices. So they become great dentists. They went from the quadrant to the full arch to the FMR people to the cosmetic to the all on 6 or all on X rather. And now they're switching gears and saying, what's next? And many of them are actually saying, I'm going to grow my business. I'm going to exit clinical dentistry, which is cool, because that's what they want. And, the Bulletproof ecosystem is uniquely adapted to support people that want to grow their dental practices and maybe surrender their own chair time and leave the clinic. But what did take me back a bit was Peter did something really intelligent. He started the meeting in a very specific format, which I guess they use in his YPO group, so Young Presidents Organization group. And he checked in with everybody around the room, like, how are you doing emotionally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, physically, spiritually, and something else I can't remember. But he went around the room and, Peter started off like, I'm feeling physically sound, emotionally present, spiritually connected, and I went next. And then we went around to the other dozen people, and it was really sobering to hear that many people, even at our master's level, are still struggling and going through the process and trying to build a business while working in it and feeling frustrated and overwhelmed and burnt out. So I felt grateful that we could have some fellowship and communion with these people, that they could hear from Peter and I that we went through the exact same thing, and we could create a little bit of grace for them to know that Peter and I went through those 10, 15 years of just complete drudgery trying to build our practices while working in them. But it was a great weekend. Everybody came away with an action plan. There's like WhatsApp groups. There's one WhatsApp group about like leaving the chair, because there's like 4 of them that want to leave the chair. And it takes a lot of courage for people to say, after they've perfected their craft, that they're going to exit clinical dentistry. In some ways, it feels like they're surrendering. And I just want to say to anybody listening that, maybe their back hurts or their hands hurt or they just don't love it anymore. You get to choose your own adventure. If you love it, great. But if you don't, let's work on figuring out a way that you can exit it. And just as one final closing comment about that leaving the chair comment is, if you ask my 84-year-old father today, and he was a dentist, what's the one thing, if you could have a wish granted to you, what's the one thing you would like professionally? He says, I would love to do another crown prep. I would love to get back in the chair. And the reason why I say that is because it's romanticized that you should leave the chair, that you should not be a dentist, or you should be an entrepreneur. And I'm here to tell everybody that's listening to this podcast, you should do what makes you happy and be unapologetic in your pursuit of what makes you happy. So if you like dentistry, God bless you. We need dentists. If your body hurts and you don't like it anymore, it's okay. You can pivot.
And for those who are interested in hearing more about that story of Craig and Pete and what they actually went through, and that chewing of glass and not feeling alone, we recently did a podcast not long ago called You Are Not Alone, Mental Health in Dentistry. And that's like a 45-minute, just masterful delivery of what dentists are really struggling with. Craig, I mean, I've messaged you how many times after that with the feedback we're getting. Dentists saying, How did they get it so spot on? How did they say it so perfectly? I feel exactly like this. I've never, ever heard such a raw version of what a dentist goes through. So if you're feeling that way, go back and check it out. And
it's the only podcast I've ever listened like twice now. Part of me, I just keep listening to it. And it's not because I think Peter and I are especially talented. It's just no one is willing to be authentic. So there's so many voices in dentistry of like, hey, check me out. This is how you do it. You know, I'm in my Ferrari. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. It's so upsetting that no one's willing to be raw. And I was so proud of Peter sharing so much of his journey. Yeah, I second what Ian said. If you have a friend that's struggling, or you know someone that's struggling, or you think they may be struggling and they're a dentist, please email them that podcast, not just for you. I've sent it to a dozen people, and people told me that's exactly what they needed to hear. So if that podcast could make its way into the ears of every dentist, I think the profession would be better.
100%. And in that same breath, today's episode and what I have planned for you, Craig, is in a similar vein. And as I said, you as the dentist whisperer, that is trademark, ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you about the psychology of dentists. So I'll tell you my methodology. I went into Claude and into ChatGPT, these AIs that we're all using, and I basically stress tested it, Craig. And I said, help me understand the psychology of dentists. And it kicked out 8 core pillars that I want to give context on, and then I have a question for you, and you can tell me what you think. How does that sound?
I think it sounds amazing.
Fantastic. So the first one is the identity problem. Dentists tie self-worth to their clinical performance, and mistakes that are made feel personal, not procedural. These create this emotional volatility and pressure to always be on. And the pretext kind of to that is that most dentists spend years building an identity around being the best clinician in the room. I know you've spoken about this many times. We're in dental school, it's you're better than the person next to you, and that's reinforced by patients, by peers, by the training they do. So my question to you is, how have you seen that identity help patient dentists early on? But then when does it actually start to work against them?
So I think I just want to back up one layer, because what we're really trying to do is we're trying to help the dentists that are out there. So there's something that a dentist becomes a dentist for a variety of reasons. And one of those reasons, a person becomes a dentist for a variety of reasons. And one of the reasons is that they are risk averse. So dentistry, there's prestige. You're going to be a doctor. You have notoriety in your title. It's actually considered one of the most respected professions, and it's also, you're never going to go broke as a dentist. You'll be able to find work. You'll be able to grind and make money. So the avatar of the person that decides to become a dentist is chasing prestige and security, right? I mean, just as an oversimplification, those are two things that many dentists will say they wanted. But that is also the trap as well, because no matter, when you're a mechanical engineer, people don't stop you at cocktail parties and say, hey, Ian, can you come look at this structural beam of my building, or can you come check out the plumbing? But when you're a dentist, they're like, hey, doc, come over here. And they pull their lip back like, hey, my tooth. Your identity as a dentist does not stop at 5 p.m. It follows you everywhere. And it's so wild to me that people will introduce me immediately by what I am. So my buddy Lee will be like, this is my dentist friend from Palm Beach. This is my dentist. This is my dentist. This is a dentist. And then they always make a joke like, oh, doc, you'd like me. I floss every day. Yeah. But like, what other profession did they do that? Like, no one says like, I'm a plumber. And they say, hey, can I take you to my bathroom real quick? I got to show you something. So there's something about our identity that's 24/7. And that, although it's prestigious and what probably attracted you to the profession, it becomes a trap, because you're seen, you're who you are is what you do. And I'm here to tell you that who you are is more than what you do, regardless of how they treat you at the cocktail party. So we get unfulfilled by not understanding the full breadth of our character. But the society doesn't help because they always pigeonhole us into you're a dentist. And even when I became a pilot or anything else I've done, it bothers people. Wait, you fly planes? I thought you're a dentist. Or you own cows? I thought you're a dentist. Or you wrote a book? I thought you were a dentist. Like they want to keep you into a convenient narrative of what they expect of you. And that's limiting for your psychology.
And is there a place to my question where having that identity of wanting to be the top clinician and the performing one, where it bodes well, and then it eventually turns against you if you do not grow out of it and become more of a business person, as you said, versus just trying to be a clinician?
Well, I think, look, there's multiple pathways to a happy career. And the first thing is to define what you want to feel or experience. I think many dentists do a great job of talking about what they wish to create in a physical sense: 6 operatories, 4 operatories, full arch, quadrant. But really, if we're doing our future selves any service, we want to define what we wish to feel or experience. So you get out of school, you feel and experience poverty. So you want to be busy, because the average dentist gets out with 450, 500 grand in debt. So it's like, hey, I don't have a choice to start talking about what I wish to feel or experience. I got bills. I got to get moving. So they chase the first priority, which is existential, which is like, let me get money. But then you get a little bit of money, and then you have another choice. Do you want to refine your craft? Do you love it? Or do you want to focus maybe on growing your business side? And either are valid. If you own your own practice or you wish to own your own practice in order to create financial independence, that may or may not be the greatest choice for you, because you could be an associate that's extraordinarily well paid because you produce a lot, and then take the extra money that you make as an associate that you don't have to live your life on, and invest it. And if you invest it wisely, you may be better off than the person who owns their own practice with the hopes of selling it one day. So there's multiple ways to get ahead. But I think that what we do that winds us leaving us in a really bad place is we're intellectually lazy about what we wish to feel or experience. So we're chasing short-term goals without the idea of what we want to feel long-term in our careers. And I have the unique purview because I've coached so many doctors now. Like it's got to be 1,000 at this point that I've interacted with. And there's recurring patterns. And the most recurring pattern is intellectual laziness and clarity about what I wish to create and why. Everyone says, I want to own my own practice and make $1 million. But when I ask why, people are just blank stares. Mm-hmm. So if I'm the whisperer, it's only because I ask better questions. Why, until we get to a place of silence. And finally, when we get to a place of silence, that's when we get to the core of what we're trying to chase.
Spot on. The second characteristic that ChatGPT told me is perfectionism and control tends to be something that we see with dentists. And it says here that dentistry obviously requires precision, and that creates perfectionist tendencies. So this obviously doesn't translate well into leadership or outcomes where it's less controllable. And funny enough, one of our mastermind members, Dr. Tanner Brown, actually went onto a podcast quite recently where he spoke about exactly this. In dental school, he was taught to be a perfectionist and get it exactly right. And then going into his own business, he realized that's not how it works. So where do you see perfectionism hurting dentists the most when they're trying to grow a practice?
Well, perfectionism is a great question. So thank you for that. Perfectionism is extraordinarily dangerous, because the difference between success and failure in the dental environment is microns, which are fractions of a millimeter. So if you are a millimeter open on the margin of your crown, it's catastrophic failure. You're bad. Your result is bad. Other dentists will love to tell you you're bad, which is a whole other podcast in and of itself. Because in the medical world, you don't find an equivalent where medical doctors are so eager to trash other medical doctors. But in dentistry, oh Lord, Peter always says, what's the shape of a dental firing squad? And he always says it's a circle. People love to shoot each other. So it doesn't help that we are hard on ourselves, but our colleagues are hard on us too. And let's face it, dentistry is a team sport. I can be God's gift to dentistry, but if my patient has Parkinson's or some gag reflex, I am only as good as the patient can cooperate and sit still. So never judge someone's dentistry. I think if there's another takeaway, if everyone listening to this could suspend the judgment of the other dentist, our profession will be extraordinarily better because you don't know what they're dealing with. Yes, you look at an x-ray and you say, that's a crappy crown in your head, but maybe the patient's just jumping all around. I've had to prep a tooth 15 on like a lady with Parkinson's and literally had to sync my own tremors to hers so I could be, careful enough. So you don't know what had to happen to do that result. So please don't judge other dentists. I had so many sleepless nights in my career because of other dentists trashing me. And I just never wanted to do that for anybody else. The second thing is give yourself some grace because you are going to do the best you can. And the patients have to do what they can do to maintain the work as well. When you buy a car or a computer or a house or anything, there's a warranty. A car is expected to have a warranty of 3 to 5 years. But dentistry, which is biologic carpentry, it's precision plus biology, patients expect that to last a lifetime. And let's face it, you can do the best dental work possible, but if your patient eats gummy bears all night while they're sleeping, I promise you your work is going to fail, and it's not your fault. So again, the team sport aspect of it, we can do our very best, but the patients have to do their part in order to maintain the work. And I think young dentists who are listening to this place the onus of responsibility of the dentistry back on the patient. If they got cavities or they destroyed their God-given teeth and you put your dentistry in there, our dentistry is a very distant second in biologic compatibility to the things that God gave our patients. So by the time they need dentistry, they're already behind the 8 ball. Dentistry is a very poor substitute for God-given teeth. And you have to let patients know that. So you have to educate the patients to say, all this work, all this investment, if you continue to do what got you here in the first place, my work will be in your hand and you'll be pissed at me. And I think that shifting of the responsibility of the upkeep to the patient is very important. So the perfectionism is one thing, but then if you don't relay the responsibility to the patient, it can come back to bite you and you'll feel like a bad dentist. And when it breaks down because the patient decided to eat gummy bears all night and they go to another dentist, unfortunately, the dentist won't even say, well, you got decay because you're eating gummy bears. You'll say, well, it's Dr. Ian, he should have done better, or he should have known better. So we're really being attacked from multiple fronts. The dialogue of our own self-worth, the perfectionistic aspect of how we judge ourselves, and unfair community and colleagues where we love to trash talk each other. And then to go directly to your question, Ian, because I'm kind of going all over the place, is from a business standpoint, if you are perfectionistic and you want it done to the 9.9 out of 10 on every single step, that is the antithesis of running a business. Because if you want to be a business operator versus a business owner, an operator is the one who does everything. And I promise you, you'll be better than anybody. But a business owner means the business exists without you. And that means that every step of the way cannot be as you like it. It's going to be maybe at best 8 out of 10 on the way you like it. Your dentistry won't be you. You'll have other dentists. You can train them. You can make them 85% as good as you, but the phones won't be answered as well as if you did it or to your liking. So perfection is the enemy of production, and you have to define what you want. And I think the reason why most dentists scale is because they have a firm belief that I want it done a very specific way, and therefore they can't grow because they can only grow to the point of what they can touch. A larger organization, you can't touch all parts.
And that falls back into Packett's law, which I know you guys have spoken about many times, is if you are going to be a perfectionist and you can't place the right people, your organization will not grow accordingly.
Yes.
Because it's just not possible. So,
well, it's also like, look at like Papa John's Pizza, which is a great pizza. We have a pizza chain here in the States, Papa John's. I'm sure you know of it. Papa John's, and I don't know the story, but I imagine it was a guy named John making pizzas, and those pizzas were extraordinary. And he's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to open up another store. And then the second store was really good, but it wasn't probably as good as the first store. And now he has 1,000 stores. And they're actually probably not nearly as good as that one when he was flipping the pizzas himself. But I guess if you live in a rural town like I do, where there's no options, there's no other pizza besides Papa John's, it's better than not having pizza. So, I say that as a corollary to the dental industry. If your wish is to leave the chair and grow an enterprise where you have multiple locations and multiple doctors, the question you have to ask yourself is, do you think you can grow locations where the doctor is, let's even call it 85% as good as you, but 3 times better than anybody in that area? And if the answer is yes, I can make doctors that are better, or I can make teams and build offices that are better than anything in the area, you're doing a net service to the patient. And I say, go step on the gas.
And what I've found too, Craig, is doing something that's good is a lot better than doing nothing and trying to make it perfect. Because ultimately, if you have many decisions that you're trying to get perfect, but you're not actually executing, then are you any closer to the finish line than you were before?
It just depends on the person. It really does. And I don't want to be prescriptive in this one size fits none. I agree with you in your opinion and what you want. And I know you, Ian, you're a friend of mine. I get it. But other people, it will torture them, literally torture them, to have an associate or 2 or 3 associates that are doing less optimal work. They'll leave themselves sleepless. So I think that the price of anything is the amount of life you're willing to trade for it. And for those that are highly perfectionistic, highly aligned to the clinical outcome, if you have 50 doctors, you're going to lose sleep. And that might not be the right thing for you. Maybe it's not the best thing to scale. And I just want to point out this optionality. You have limitless freedom in your career of dentistry. You don't have to scale in multiple locations to become wealthy. You just need to own businesses, meaning stocks, real estate, other things. You don't have to just own your dental business. And I know so many examples of that. I meet associates all the time that tell me, oh, I'm just an associate. I don't have my own practice. And there's so much shame in that. And I peel back their P&L, their profit and loss. I'm like, dude, you are crushing it. You make more than most of our masterminders do that own their own practices. So if the race that you're trying to win is freedom and money and financial freedom, a lot of associates are beating our practice owners.
The next one I want to jump to with you, it's not necessarily a personality trait or a characteristic of a dentist, but something that I believe they experience is the expectation versus reality gap. Dentists expect freedom and wealth, but then they face debt and operational stress and business complexity that they weren't prepared for.
Yeah, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. It really does. So it's like the thing that always rings true to me is getting everything you thought you wanted and still being unfulfilled. That is a dark place, right? So what I say to that person is they didn't do the work on what they wanted to feel or experience. So it is remarkable after working with 1,000 dentists that the patterns I see. The level of they're pursuing the wrong goals. So they get in, they say, I want to own a business. Why? Because I want to make more money. Okay. That's fine. I mean, that's just a lower level reason of more money, because there's a lot of ways to make more money. And I'm not trying to be cavalier, because I know a lot of us have massive student loans. But if you have a reason, as an example, to become a multi-practice business owner, and the reason is, and I'll use Tanner in this conversation. And Tanner's been a client of ours in the Bulletproof Mastermind for quite a while, and we helped shape his vision. And early on, after we refined the vision, it's like, I want to give dentists and teams an opportunity to have a fulfilling career. So he wants to open up practices in areas that are underserved and build iconic businesses such that doctors and team can have a great career. That's a great why. And if you ask Tanner, and I've asked him myself, is it about more money? He's like, no, not about more money. So he's kind of ambivalent to the money. He's a capitalist, of course. He has to repay his debt, but money's not driving him. He has a bigger reason why. And when you have a larger reason, you tend to be pulled towards your vision versus being pushed towards it. Being pushed, it'll run out. You'll run out of gas. But if you have something compelling, you'll be pulled towards it. So the way through this question and to not wind up winning the race that you never wanted to win is to get crystal clear on what you want to feel or experience as a result of it. And that's why they call me the whisperer. It's not because I have some sort of psychic ability to read people. I don't. I wish I did. But I just ask questions. I just ask, why are you doing this? Because I really want to determine the why. And the reason why they say it's a whisperer is because when people finally get in touch with their why, their physiology changes. You can see, okay, now I'm being authentic. So they'll say, like, I want to make money. I want to do this. I want to support my family. And then you find out what it is. It's like a lot of my, and I'll give an example of one that really is powerful. And I hear this one a lot. A lot of my team members are single mothers and they work really hard. And I want my team to never be financially insecure. I want to build this practice so robust that we provide financial freedom for all of my employees. And when they say that, I'm like, hallelujah, you're done. Like, and their physiology changes because they get emotional. It's a bigger reason. And that's what the dissection of the dental whisperer is. It's just better quality questions, and I think in this age that we're in, there's a lot of hustle porn. And it's really the thesis of a book I'm going to be writing shortly. It's basically like we're all hustling and we're all gunning and we're all running with the runners or grinding or whatever you want to say, whatever the euphemism that people say. But if everyone's so smart and dedicated and working so hard, why is everyone so unhappy? So if you're really smart and if you're really smart, you should wind up happy, or else you've just totally shafted yourself. And dentistry leads the pack in that, unfortunately.
And exactly to what you're saying of, there's a gap between the expectation and reality because you didn't actually go and think about that why or think about what will the reality be. You know by now that debt is involved in this profession, unless you're part of a select few. We know that you're going to face these problems. We're not the first podcast to talk about this. But I agree with you that even on the My Story series that we're doing, and when we're talking to these doctors, every single one needed Craig's why, but why, but why. And then finally, by the end of it, you're like, is this the first time that you're truly thinking about this, even though you're 6 months into owning a practice or 2 years into owning a practice? And it's like, it seems so. It seems so.
And just going back to My Story, one of the big traps is when your rules and beliefs are in conflict. So I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it was like, remember when he said, how would it feel if you could make X dollars passively from your practice? And the guy said, I'd feel like a thief. It wasn't like I wouldn't feel good. Feeling like a thief is an extraordinary emotional description. You feel like a fraud, a thief, disingenuous, a criminal. So how if his belief is like, I would feel like a thief, but yet his rule is I want to become a dental business owner that doesn't have to pick up the handpiece. Look at the conflict that's there. So the biggest service we ever did that guy was saying, hey, by the time you get to that point, you won't feel like a thief because you'll have earned it. People don't like to get something, like that they didn't earn. That's why you don't meet many trust funder kids that are happy, well-adjusted people. They got all this stuff and never earned it. So for those that wish to be dental entrepreneurs and not pick up the handpiece, you will earn it. By the time you get that first passive check, you won't feel like you didn't earn it. You're going to get your ass kicked no matter what. There'll be trials and tribulations. But if that's what you want to do, I say go for it, because the who you have to be in order to achieve that will be so rewarding for you. It's not the marathon that you feel good about winning. It's the physical condition that you had to get in to run the marathon that you're most proud about. And I think what you said too, Ian, sorry, I'm talking, I had too much coffee. You should have told me stop the coffee an hour ago. I'm just thinking about, like, in my own life, I'm going to Japan this summer and I've always wanted to go. And what do I want to feel or experience from the Japan trip? Many people want to take Instagram photos of the Great Temple and the square in Tokyo where everybody's walking the pedestrian circle. And they just want to take the picture and put it on their Instagram and show you like, F you, I'm living a dope lifestyle and look at me. And I actually don't want any of that. I want to experience what it is to live in Japan. I want to watch. I have a tour guide and I said, don't take me anywhere where there's American tourists. Try to avoid it as all possible. I don't want to see the temple that everybody goes to. If you can find a smaller temple that no one knows about where I could observe Japanese culture. And he speaks Japanese. So I'm like, I can immerse myself. So I don't need to worry about any, Japanese. I just want to go deep and understand Japan through the eyes of the Japanese, because I think that would be an immersive experience. So I'm very laser focused on what I want to feel or experience, even from something like that, So I just think that that's a takeaway for everybody, whether it's your vacation or your career. And I think most of us, what you want to visit, what you want to feel, but your career, it's like 10 ops and $1 million and you go and you never look back.
The next one that I have here is isolation and pressure, Craig, which just even in the setup of dentistry, dentists work in physically and emotionally isolating environments. You're in there with a patient and you have your assistant with you, and then even as owners, you're carrying all of these decision-making pressures alone. So there's this feeling of I am alone in most of the examples of what I'm doing, but then at the end of the day, I also need to have all the answers. What's that about?
That's great, Ian. Thank you for that. So we have a setup that is designed to have us feel isolated. At the very first step, we train isolated. So we train in dental schools, but we don't do what the medical doctors do, where they round together. Groups of 3 and 4 are interacting and conversing about the patient. What do you think, Dr. Ian? What do you think, Dr. Jones? And they go through the hospital system in a conversant, collaborative fashion. What do? We have class rank. So we all know the rank, who's number 4, who's number 8. Did you see his wax up? Did you see that guy's got great hand skills? We're competing for the upper echelon of the specialty slots. So automatically people just start running and competing. And the top of the class has the pick of the litter, whether they want to go to ortho or endo or oral surgery. So just by virtue of them being accepted, they may choose that without any intellectual thought about what they want to feel or experience. Then on top of it, we open up small businesses. And just because we're a dentist, there's this rank and file in our offices where doctor's here. The copier broke. Let's get doctor. The coffee machine ran out of cream. Let's get doctor. The music choices on, Sonos. Let's get doctor. Like, shut the F, like it's a dentist. I'm an expert in making teeth and designing teeth, but everything else about this business, I need input. What's happening on the phones? How are we not getting ahead? Why are we getting no-shows? Why is the hygiene schedule not full? Doctor comes in and diagnoses the phone tree. Like that doctor, I have no idea what was going on. We over-process our people because we are the highest ranking person. So we have an extraordinary high level of education, and we work with a lot of people who don't have that much education, admin and assistants and so on and so forth. So everyone shuts their brains off, and we make actually people more stupid.
But aren't they also trained to look at the dentist in that way through what they're doing? Is like you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a trap.
So
it's a trap.
Okay.
It's a trap. So like when you and I started working together and Peter and I brought you on, we actually said the words like, you are in charge. You can use us as counsel, but ultimately the decisions on the Bulletproof company go to you, Ian. So get Pete's opinion, get Craig's opinion, and figure out what's right, but you're going to do it. So you came in with authority. And that's my hope that all the dentists listening to this, don't give your team the process, give them the result. So if the result is a no-show rate of 2%, let them design the process. If the result is hygienists should collect $1,500 per day, guide the hygiene team to get to that. Help them understand why and what, and give them the tools. Maybe it's a laser, maybe it's an extra sensor, maybe it's a hygiene assistant, maybe it's using a company like Protect, which we have a great relationship with. But don't tell your hygienist how to do it. There's a great quote that I always drop. It says, if you want to teach people how to build a ship, Don't instruct them to gather the wood and, gather the nails. Teach them to long for the sea. The vision. Where are we going? We're taking this thing. We're going to build this thing. We're going to cross the ocean, and we're going to meet new territory. That vision can enliven people. And the dentist, since we are so prescriptive and we're scientific and acid for 30 and bond for 5 and everything's a recipe, we do that with our team. And we process the shit out of our team, and they're not inspired. And that's why, the summit is the great reset, because the summit taps into everybody's why. You go there because you're like, my team is not really on board, or how do I get my team motivated? No, they're going to watch the visioneering that takes place at the summit. You're going to craft the vision during that weekend of where we're going and why we're doing it. And the team is going to buy in. And when summit ends at 5 p.m. every day, you will be in the lobby at the Phoenician with your team until 9 p.m. And you'll actually be pretty quiet. They'll be the ones writing. Because once you light people up and you show people where you're going, there's no stopping your organization. And you don't have to push people or motivate them. They go on their own.
And that inherently solves the isolation problem then, to me. So if you can empower your team in that way, you stop feeling alone. Because as you said, you're in this together now. It feels like it's something you're doing together.
And that ROR, as I call it, the return on relationship, is the best ROI. The relationships I have in my practice, although I'm not very needed, I'm here today. I love my people. And when Acme DSO comes along, because they come along once every couple, year or two, and they give me a big fat offer, I sit there that night, even though friends tell me, hey, Craig, this is a very financially sound thing for you to take the money and diversify or, quote, take chips off the table at your age. I can't do it. And I always ask myself, if it was more. I've had DSOs say, hey, name the number. And I don't want to name it because I don't want to get it. Because I actually like what I've built. And granted, there are days where I don't like it. There are days for all business owners, which are selling days. Like today's, it could be a day that you just want to call it. But if 90% of the time you like what you built, then you've led a successful life. And the reason why I am happy with what I built is because I knew what I wanted and what I wanted to feel and experience. In 2008, I wrote it all down, exactly what I wanted to feel or experience. I did leave out how much money I wanted to make. And there's no wonder I got to a non-for-profit in 2017, because money was not part of my vision. And I'm going to implore everybody to put money, because money is important. So, but you took me all over the place, Ian. I hope that was, I hope it was good on some salient points.
The next one that I want to touch on is the people-pleasing trap, Craig, which I know my dad, who I've said before is a dentist, this is something he definitely struggles with. It's something I definitely struggle with. Craig, would you say people-pleasing is something that you struggle with? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So the desire to avoid conflict leads to undercharging patients, poor boundaries, and weak team management. And then this just creates long-term resentment. So many dentists genuinely just want to help people and be liked, which is a strength, but that can also turn into a liability for the dentist and for their business. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. I'd say that's one of my largest traps. It causes the most amount of pain for me. So I'll go with the team first. So if you cannot stand up for the greater good of your team, and you don't have the courage to have the difficult conversation to let the cancerous player go, you are pleasing one and pissing off the rest. So what I've done so many times, it pains me to think about, is not have the courage to let the bad player go. And by doing so, I damage more people, and they lose respect for me because I don't have the courage to do what's right for the team. So yes, people pleasing is real, but if you have a choice to please one and piss off 10 versus please 10 and piss off one, you've got to do the math and do what's right for your team. The second aspect is, I don't know of many professions, maybe ICE agents now, but before this thing, I didn't know many professions where when you just say the words, hi, how are you, to a new person, someone would say something like, no offense, but I hate dentists.
Yeah.
Imagine any other thing, no offense, but I hate South Africans. How would you, it's like, where do we go from here? How do you even, what do you say to that? But yet, Ian, that is extraordinarily common. It's not a once in a month.
It's not you, Doc,
no.
but I hate coming to the dentist. I hate being
No,
here.
it's actually more direct, Ian.
Oh, really?
No offense, but I hate dentists.
Oof.
I hate coming to the dentist would be a nicer way of saying it. Perhaps that's how you would say it. But really, if you think about it, dentist, teeth and the oral cavity is the only thing that starts to break down really early. If you don't diligently care for your eyes every day, by the time you're 14 or 15, they don't bleed and fall out of your head.
Correct.
But if you're a child that gets their adult teeth, 8 through 12 and drinking Mountain Dew and don't brush or floss, as a preteen, you can have massive dental problems, bleeding, tooth loss. In fact, one of the most common reasons for a child to go to the ER in the United States is for a dental issue. So what people are really saying is not that they hate dentists, but they hate this idea that there's a body part that really doesn't last very long without constant maintenance. So the transference of my teeth drama and my teeth I can never get ahead goes on to you. So what I would tell everyone is when someone says to you, no offense, but I hate dentists, don't just take that. I would say, I understand that your teeth, what you're really trying to tell me, and help me understand this correctly, your teeth are frustrating you because no matter how hard you try or what you do, you're not getting healthier. Is that a fair description? Or are your teeth consistently breaking down? Because it's not the dentist that upsets you, or tell me about that. But don't just take it like, ha, 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 and let it go. Don't let,
because that is what most people do, especially if you're in the serving business, which dentists are, of like, okay.
Anyway, let's get started.
Let's get started. Yeah. No, I agree. And you're not going to please everyone, Craig. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can be let's say you are the perfectionist dentist and you're listening to this, and you do actually get every single thing perfect, but that day just ran perfect. How could you have controlled what that man or what that lady that then walks into your practice? You can't control the day that they had. So
right, but you
understand
can influence it, though. I hear you. You're saying don't be attached to it. But what I'm going to take you through is, no offense, I hate dentists. I'm sorry you feel that way. Have your teeth always been frustrating for you? Yes, they have. What specifically about it? No matter how much I do, I come in, I always get cavities. Okay, let's talk about that. Are you using everything? Are you brushing, flossing, blah, blah, blah? How about like sugar? No, I don't need sugar. But anything else you do? Well, I take these, chewy vitamins every night that I go to bed for my osteoporosis. Well, can you screenshot what they look like? Do you get them on Amazon? Oh, yeah, this is what they are. Look at that. They're corn syrup. You take them every night. Wow, doc, I never knew they're vitamins. Well, yeah. And look at that. And now you're exchanging value. Now that person says, okay, this person cares about me. And even though when a person says, no offense, they hate dentists, what that means is, I always think of this saying, there's only two meanings to communication. Either it's a loving response or a cry for help. All communication is one of two things, a loving response or a cry for help. We know a loving response. It's like, Ian, I love you. You're amazing. Thank you for being our CEO. A cry for help is, I hate dentists. What do you mean? Get to know your patient. And that's the way you build an amazing career, because you can take that person and then you will be the dentist that says, before I met Dr. Craig, I hated dentists, and his office made me not fear dentists anymore. And that's what I love when someone says, can you open up one of your offices in Cincinnati? Because you were the people that took me from hating dentists to actually feeling empowered and in control of my oral health. So what I'm saying, and yes, you can't please everybody, but don't take it at face value. Just understand that comment is a cry for help. And you as a caregiver can soothe that person and help them and have an iconic career because of it.
Because that is ultimately your role to play. I would say, if I think as the caretaker, it's, yes, someone will come in and be that way. And as you just said, Craig, what tools are you going to use in the conversation that you have with him to get to change their opinion, to get to change how they feel.
And that definition, Ian, really expands your fulfillment, because instead of saying, I drill and fill teeth, you get to take care of people. And sometimes at our appointment may just be like, hey, I understand that you're afraid. I'm sorry you grew up in Ukraine or wherever you grew up and they literally held you down. Because a lot of our patients, especially ones that grew up in communist countries at the time, were held down and forced to have their dentistry. How frightening. And of course I would feel the same way. And maybe the hour is not as productive because you just have to talk to your patient, but you will build a machine of marketing and referrals. Like, think about spending $1,000 on pay-per-click, or taking your hour that was $1,000 of production and getting to know your patient. And then that when that patient finally gets the work done, they will tell everybody, they will love you. And then you get to expand the definition of, I'm not a whole tooth filler, but I'm a caregiver. I got into dentistry because I wanted to help people. And sometimes you help them with your words and your support as much as with your handpiece.
Spot on. Greg, so I want to touch on something that you actually spoke about early in the episode, is being risk averse because of the nature of what dentists are put through early in their career. And financial stress and fear is something that comes as part of this. So debt and overhead create this fear-based decision-making for dentists, because they'll avoid doing price changes or investments or take necessary risks because they say, I have all this student debt, I have all this overhead, it wouldn't be financially smart, which I know from understanding your way of investment and looking for the next thing and wanting to make your money for you is a path that you changed in your career.
Well, something's going wrong, Ian, because most dentists cannot retire on time. So, we're extraordinarily good. We earn well. We are in the upper percentages of earnings. Unfortunately, we're also in the upper percentages of how much debt we have as we go through student loans. But there's something about our behavior patterns that's not allowing us to be financially free at retirement. So I think what it is, and again, this is something I've thought about quite a bit, is that by the time you earn your first dollar, by the time you get out of school, you're 26, 28 years old, you've never worked. Everyone's calling you doctor. You get a white coat. Your family's taking pictures. Your mom's bragging about you. And it's time to feel like a doctor. And the banks are all willing to give you 110% financing. So you go out and you do what I did. The first 2 weeks I was a doctor, I bought myself a Benz. Had no money, I had debt. Now, listen, if I'm going to feel like a doctor, I'm going to go buy myself a Mercedes. I was living at home, by the way. At the time, it was like a CLK. It was way over my means. And I didn't understand. This is going back. It was a 1942 Mercedes-Benz. No, I'm kidding. It was a 1998. You were negative 20, Ian. I did that, and no one had ever taught me about the mechanics of money. I never understood money. I was just very blessed to have friends in my life that showed up that understood money. And I was inquisitive, and I asked them how it works. And money is not emotional. Money is not luck, although it can be. Money is discipline and laws. There's laws to money. And what we all dentists have to understand is that you have to obey the laws of money. And the first law of money is that you work for it, and then you have an obligation to make it work for you. So every dollar that is in your bank account has like a shovel on its back, and it's ready to do work. But we don't understand that. So what do? We go out and buy fancy cars. We buy Louis Vuitton backpacks. I mean, I see the dentist there. I have the unique opportunity where I have these masterminders, and I see some of my, not even just masterminders, but just people in our greater audience that have shared with me their profit and loss. And then I see them at Summit with, all this fancy stuff. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I know what you make. Don't be this flashy. So now, once you understand the power of an asset, an appreciating asset, you are not able to have nice stuff that depreciates. I had a beautiful Porsche. I bought a brand new Porsche about 2 years ago. It's the last GTS manual Porsche. I somehow convinced myself it was an asset. This is the last one they'll ever make.
Craig, but it is an asset. Of course it is.
Yes, I did the math. I told my wife I can't afford not to have this. And I believed it all. I was like, I can't, this is the most amazing asset. And it sat there in my driveway and it owned me because I was afraid to drive it. I was afraid to park it. I was afraid there was construction on my block and there were little roofing nails and my tires were so expensive. It owned me. I left in the parking lot. I worried about it. So I was like, I work for this Porsche. The Porsche is not working for me. I was too worried about it. And then I also did the math too, that it was $180,000 and I can get conservatively 10% of my money. So that's $18,000 per year of cash in my pocket. Additionally, it was depreciating, believe it or not. And there was insurance at $10,000 a year. So the opportunity cost of owning that Porsche was like 30 G's, 35 G's just to own it. And I worried about it. So I was like, F it. I got rid of it. I deployed the money. And now if I want a Porsche, I'll go on Turo and rent one for a week.
Have some fun. Yeah, don't worry.
And have some fun and not worry about it. So it's just understanding the opportunity cost. And dentists are extraordinarily poor investors, number one. And number two, we are the most preyed upon in the financial world. The oil and gas guys, the whole life insurance policy guys love dentists because we are relationship people. And once we have a relationship with you, once you take us out to dinner and take us, in my case, to floor seats at the NBA game, I'm like, this guy really likes me. I'm going to give him all my money. And we get defrauded easily. So, and then we get further back into the can't trust anybody. I'm all alone and I should not just invest. So you must invest, but understand if it's a dental specific investment, that would put my radar up. I'd worry about it.
Yeah, that is so interesting that you pointed that out now, where I took a chance and then it went wrong because it was someone that took advantage of me. Now I'm even more stressed. So now I have that. Now I go further into isolation, and then you have the burnout and you have the mental health issues.
Yes. You see it all the time.
I
invested with so-and-so. I mean, listen, Ian, it's deep. There's consulting companies out there that I was part of, dental consulting companies like Bulletproof. They're a corollary to Bulletproof, but they also have financial services tied into it. So at the retreats, they're like, hey, buy this whole life policy. So, and they're all in there together. And I was lucky to have friends that worked on the inside and be like, dude, get out of here. I was like,
didn't you joke with Pete? Well, no, it was a My Story episode under the, like, did you buy their life insurance? How much did you buy? How much did they tell you? And he said immediately, yes, I did. And we're like, no, go back.
I know. Everyone knows not to buy whole life, except I didn't know that. And if you ask the biggest whole life insurance salespeople out there, they love dentists. Yeah. And what a great way to do it. What a great Trojan horse approach. Get them in through dental consulting and then sell them a whole bunch of shit. And Peter did it. I did it. And we could have done two things like, okay, screw this. I'm never investing. I'm going to stick the cash under my mattress and not have money work for me, or get professional guidance and help and learn how to make the laws of money work for you. And by the way, it's all out there. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Tax-Free Wealth by Thomas Wheelwright. Listen to podcasts with Randy. Randy's been such a powerful economic force in my life. He's helped me extraordinarily. So there's
podcast, what the wealthy know that we don't. So go have a look at that. It's a magnificent podcast with Randy. We had him on. I listened to that, Craig, and made some. I'm a big investment guy. I made changes to my portfolio based on what Randy said in that episode.
And by the way, the first time Randy and I talked about this, it was like Chinese to me. So you just have to break it down. What do the wealthy know that we don't? And I just kept learning these little things like, how did you do that? How did you not pay tax on that? Well, here's the way it's done. And here's a cost and all these terms. It's like Randy always jokes around. The tax code is like 6,000 pages long, and 90 of them are like how to not pay tax through what people call loopholes, but they're really designed government incentives. The government wants you to grow your business, hire people, buy stuff. Or if you don't, they want you to pay tax and they'll create the jobs. The US government's first choice is the small business or business person to create opportunity. If you don't wish to do that and you're a W-2 and you just want to take your salary and just do your work, you're going to pay the highest possible taxes. And from those tax dollars, they're going to create jobs for you on your behalf.
And if you're a dentist listening to listening to this now and you're like, this already scares me, actually just go read up what a tax-free savings account is. So just use that then and go park it into the S&P 500. That's probably the easiest thing that you can do. This is not financial advice, by the way. This is what I have done. And especially starting young and doing that, it helped me a lot because I don't have to worry about it. And if Warren Buffett says that it's going to help you doing that rather than doing nothing, I think that's a first step if you're someone that's interested in starting somewhere. Craig, I've got 2 more points for you, and then we can wrap it up if you're ready.
Yeah, of course. I can talk my butt off. I hope people are still listening.
No, of course. This is good stuff, man. This is good stuff. The golden cage effect. So speaking of money, Craig, the golden cage effect. So dentists build a profitable practice, but then feel trapped because the entire business depends on them. If my dad had the saying, Craig, Ian, you must remember, when these aren't working, my bank account isn't working. Because he was just your clinician. He wasn't the business type. He was someone that came in and worked. So when these hands aren't working, that bank account is not working. So what is the golden cage effect to you, and how does it create difficulties for dentists to step out of?
Okay, so thanks for asking this question. So the first thing is there are many people that are listening to this right now that have a practice, that own a practice, that never felt that they were in a golden cage. They love their life. They feel good about the value. They enjoy dentistry. And then us just talking about this, they're getting the feeling like, oh shit, I'm trapped. So don't let someone else's dialogue trap you. You know, people ask me all the time in mastermind and summits, what would you do? What do you like about my life? And I said, don't talk to me about that. Your life, if it works for you, don't be upset about what I would want to create. It has to work for you. So my dad was, in my opinion, in a golden cage his whole career. I never said that to him, and he never thought he was. And to this day, at 84 years old, he still wants to go back into clinical dentistry. And it's actually worse than what you described. What your dad said is, if these hands aren't working, the bank account is not working. It's actually worse. If you're a dental practice owner and you're taking time off, you're going not just an opportunity cost, but your team is being paid. So
Correct.
It's not costing you an opportunity. It's physically costing you money. You leave for 2 weeks. You've actually not only not made the 2 weeks of income, you've lost the 2 weeks of expenses. Your rent was due, your team got paid. So it's, look, it's whatever you want. And I do not want to tell people that they should be a dental business person and have a career, a practice that can function without them. I don't want to say that, because there are many that are extraordinary clinicians. And yes, they have jobs, but they have jobs like LeBron has a job. They make extraordinary income while they're working. So I know just by saying you're trapped, you can feel trapped. And I don't want anyone to have a dysphoria of feeling a certain way because Craig or Ian said you should feel this way. If you do feel trapped and you don't like it and it bothers you and you're worried about, if something happens to me, what will happen to my family? There's other ways to do it. You can get a term life insurance policy. Even I got a term policy because I'm taking out a big loan to expand the practice, and I didn't want to, leave my heirs with a lot of debt. So there's ways to mitigate those feelings. Or if you want to create a business because you want to express your entrepreneurial talents, you want to take care of more people, and you have really good reasons why you want to step on the gas in an entrepreneur way, go for it. But if you want to create a business because you think it will be easy and you want to make more money, I don't know. I've seen enough people that I don't know if it's the easy way. But I would only say, if you feel trapped, really figure out why you feel trapped, and not just because you're suffering because someone else teased you. I have two people in my life. One that works for Heartland, and he's an associate, and he makes $700,000 a year because he does extraordinarily well. But he also gets that bonus with Heartland because if your office is a certain amount of profit, you get half the profit. So he literally is 4 days a week, makes $700,000 a year take home. His friend owns 3 dental practices, works 7 days a week, and makes $200,000. The dental business owner is teasing the Heartland, you're just an associate, you're in a golden cage. Well, Jay, that's a lot of gold, that cage.
And choose your cage. I mean, which cage?
Choose your
That's the
cage.
thing. Choose your
Yes.
cage. Yeah.
I love that, Ian. I love that. Because growing a dental business is another cage. Holy hell. I don't want it. Peter and I both said on the, the podcast you were talking about, you're not alone. We both said very resoundingly, we would never want to go through it again.
Mm.
So yes,
Exactly.
you like where Peter and Craig are today, but you don't want to be where we were for 10 or 15 years. So we just picked a different cage. Love it.
Speaking of identity, a business owner versus being the associate, the last thing I want to cover with you here, Craig, is the identity shift that dentists deal with going from a clinician to a business owner. And that's something we see in our masters all the time. Is transformation begins when a dentist sees themselves as a business owner first and not just a clinician. And I'm saying this for the dental entrepreneurs that want to run dental businesses, not just be a great clinician. There are places for those people in the world. So at some point, dentists need to grow and make a shift from I'm no longer just a clinician, I'm a business owner. And what do you see when that starts to happen?
The first thing is shame, because there's always shame in the idea of I want to leave the chair. So your colleagues will say to you, you retired, you don't work anymore. So dentist to dentist, a dentist would look at what you do, Ian, as CEO of Bulletproof, and say, you don't work because you don't see patients. So do you work today? Yes, I'm doing work today. Well, no, I don't see any patients in your schedule. Yes, but I'm building the dental business. You'll get no respect for working in your on your business. Dentists are very harsh with each other. You don't work anymore. So they only define, dentist to dentist, only define work is if you're seeing patients. So the first thing is shame. You have to tell your team you're not leaving, you're going to grow the business and why you're going to grow it. And don't worry, it's going to be okay. Because the minute your team sees you want to exit the chair and grow the business, they're freaked out. So you have to describe that it'll be okay and you're going to grow something larger. But I faced that. My dad even would say to me, like, oh, he doesn't work anymore, or you're not working today. Any call, any meeting, a team meeting, a leadership meeting, that's all not work to a dentist. Working is a patient in the chair. So it's shameful. And every time someone says resoundingly, like, I'm over dentistry or my back hurts or I just can't do it anymore, and I really can tell that it's just not an emotional moment, that they really mean it, I always congratulate them. Just the same way I would congratulate someone if they said, I love dentistry. Congratulations for the clarity. Because the first thing is we need to get really clear. And most people don't spend the time to get clear. And hence the whisper or comment. We can all tell if we're clear. Your physiology, the way you speak changes when you have integrity about what you're saying.
Spot on. Craig, do you have any closing thoughts before I close us out here?
Yeah, I think my closing thought is, I've been doing this so long now with Bulletproof, coming up on almost 10 years or over 10 years. And I see such a massive change in people when they immerse themselves in the ecosystem. And even at this level, you might be listening to this might be your 10th episode. You might have listened to every single one of your first. And I can just tell you that Bulletproof is not as well known as it should be, because dentists are in trouble. And I think we have the antidote. No matter what your ailment is in dentistry, I think Bulletproof can provide the cure for you. And part of it is just the understanding we know what's going on, and we've done it ourselves, and we can help you. And I see so many other people that are getting into dentistry, and there's some quite bad actors that are like, hey, the 10 easy steps, sign up, and it's so much money. And I see my colleagues so much money being taken from them, and it leaves them even more hopeless, because it's one order of magnitude if you're hopeless and you haven't tried something, but it's another deeper area of despair if you're hopeless and you think you've tried everything. So for those who have invested in things and not gotten where they want to go, I implore you to register for the summit and bring your team. It's the simplest way within 48 hours to shift everything. And I'm so firm in that we guarantee it with the 10X guarantee. So if any of this message was like, hey, these guys have something for me, wait till we get to work on your team, because it's really hard to train your team yourself. But, our office manager training yours and our hygienist training your hygienist creates the antidote to the loneliness that Ian spoke about earlier. So get your butt with your team to the summit. There's still tickets left, August 8th and 9th at the Phoenician. That's my parting plea.
Yeah, spoiler alert, there are no easy 10 steps to make this successful. And that's something that Craig and Pete have shared here again and again and again. And that Pete always likes to say, that chewing of glass, like going through it, learning because you made the mistakes, and that's what you're now offering. This is not these 5 steps is going to make you happy and a fulfilled dentist. It's about putting in the work and coming to the summit and doing this work and seeing like-minded dentists that want to be where you are, or that are aspiring to be the type of dentist that you want to be. That's when the magic starts to happen. So as Craig said, come and join us. It's going to be an amazing time. We've got something special planned for you. Then also, if you're just someone that wants to reach out to the podcast and you have a story to tell, my story at bulletproofdentalpractice.com. We've been getting emails from people sending us their P&L to a story where they're struggling with an hygienist or an office manager, where they're struggling with their father because he still wants to run the practice while the son is trying to take it over, which, I mean, that's Craig's story. These things are coming towards us, and we'd love to hear it, and we want to get you on the show. We want to share your story. We want to help you. So reach out through the email and then also the hotline number, 561-933-5575. Give us a call. We're here to help. Guys, thank you for listening, and remember, stay bulletproof.
Thanks, Ian. Stay bulletproof, people.
Thanks, everyone, for watching today's episode of the Bulletproof Dental Practice Pod. We hope this conversation brought you a tremendous amount of perspective and reminded you of why you love dentistry. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button, drop us a comment, and make sure to subscribe so you never miss a future episode. Additionally, it would really help us if you could send this message to someone that you think would enjoy it. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep leading boldly, and most importantly, stay bulletproof.